The tears he cried, he'd have to hide, for the time had come for him to be a man.
So let's talk now a little bit about the main character, J.W. So he's 13 years old. His parents lie about his age. They say that he's 16 just so that he can go work in the mines. And it was really difficult and dangerous work. Interfered with his schooling, and so he's working the night shift too. So he, for a while, tries to go to school and then work the night shift, but he can't keep that up for long. Was this really common in the 1920s? Did kids work all night and then still go to school? What happened to them? Did they drop out of school?
Well, unfortunately, it was really common in the 20s for boys to be in the coal mines. Officially the regulations changed after World War I. The age they wanted them in school to at least 14. And then again in 1923, they changed the age to 16 to go underground. But those were the official regulations. Unfortunately, there were lots of people that didn't mind changing the dates on some of the paper records to reflect, a different age, which is what happened in J.W.'s case. And, I've looked at some research, and much of it shows that, some of the boys did try to continue on in school. However, they'd get going maybe 2 to 3 days, but sheer exhaustion would just take over, and they'd fall behind, and a lot of them, unfortunately, would end up dropping out. Other parts I looked at was that some of the schools in the system sort of geared their programming toward a mining career for the boys. And some of the reasons that they stayed going underground at such a young age is the mine owners, in their desire for cheap labor, that overrode any concern for the boys. And it didn't seem like, any legal sanctions were going to be applied against them. And other parts I read, that, there were such large families, the financial stresses just overrode the concern for the kids. Right. And actually there were some boys that said, I want to go to work, I want to do a man's work.
So your book is historical fiction, and I want to know if you were hoping to accomplish something by writing historical fiction, or what you think is important about that genre.
Well, I think I'm trying to bring to life a little piece of the history for the younger audience. Many of the kids don't realize what their grandparents and great-grandparents went through, so it'd be nice if they got to know a little bit about what they had to deal with. Mm-hmm. And I've included actual characters from the time, like Roy Wolven, often referred to as Roy the Wolf, because of his total disregard for the men and boys that worked underground. Mm-hmm. And he had a vice president named McClurg, whose famous quote, "They can't stand the gaff," right. That lives on in infamy, and it was used by the miners in the 1925 strike as a rallying cry. But I've also included people like J.B. McLaughlin. He was the labor leader, and he taught the men to fight for their rights, at great expense to himself. Also, William Davis, he was the miner that was killed during that strike, and he was, he's viewed as being a martyr for the cause. And even now today in the schools around here in the mining communities, it's still a holiday, Davis Day. Okay. So what I'm hoping is that the book would perhaps be a starting point to open up a dialogue between the kids and the teachers, and maybe the kids and their parents as well.
What do you think readers should know about this book? Why do you think it's an important book to read?
I hope that they know that despite the fact that it's fictionalized characters and scenarios, the descriptions of the events above and below ground are actually draw from the social and economic history of the 1920s Cape Breton. However, I would hope that the writing's such that even if a person doesn't have any background knowledge of the mines and the times, that they would still enjoy the book. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And it's sort of hard to call your own book important, but I would hope that it would spark an interest in people looking at the culture and the history of the labor history of Cape Breton.